James Cleverly came under fire for what some perceive to be an unduly dovish approach to the burgeoning superpower of the People's Republic of China. The Foreign Secretary declared that isolating the Communist Chinese would be a mistake and that it makes sense for the two parties to work together where it is in our mutual interest to do so. Here is Mr. Cleverly with the Vice President of China, Han Zheng. As my next guest points out, when we watch documentaries about some of the worst human rights abuses in history, rarely do we expect to see pictures of British leaders shaking hands with the perpetrators of these crimes. That's exactly what we see here. The Uyghurs are a minority Muslim group in the westernmost part of China, and since 2016, they have been increasingly suffering at the hands of the Communist Chinese state. Estimates have been made suggesting over 1 million Uyghurs have been detained in what are sinisterly known as re-education camps, in which detainees are tortured, forced to renounce their religion, and in some cases, sterilised. So did James Cleverly's visit gloss over this deeply unsettling problem? Well, I'm joined now by Rahima Mahmut, UK Director of the World Uyghur Congress. Thank you, Rahima, for coming in. What is your understanding of what's going on currently to the Uyghurs and how they're being treated?
Thank you for having me. So since 2016, as you have mentioned, the genocidal policies were implemented and the mass arrests started in early 2017. Later we found out that this was continuing all the time. Finally, in August 2018, the UN acknowledged and that the UN used the word up to 1 million. Only then the world started kind of waking up to something that the horror that is happening in the 21st century. But as Uyghur myself, while we've been living in that horror, I lost contact with my family from January 2017, and I cannot contact them. I learned my sister died in March, only 1 month after I learned this news. And the person who passed me this news told me not to contact them. If you do, that there will be severe consequences.
So it's dangerous for you to be in contact with people you know, friends and family who are remaining in China, and that the persecution has included your family. So you have personal relations who have been affected by this.
Absolutely. Hardly anyone that I know not affected. People who never involved in anything. Their family has been taken away simply because they didn't return when the Chinese government asked them or summoned the Uyghurs living in overseas to return.
Okay, so people were asked to return by the Chinese government, and then their families suffered if they didn't.
Absolutely. And we know many students returned voluntarily, and at the airport they were detained.
And there's very good evidence that this is going on, isn't there? There's been satellite pictures and reports from people like you who have come forward to say this. Why is the West being so mealy-mouthed about it, do you think?
I find it extremely difficult to understand that. I thought when 2018, when UN acknowledged it, when there are so many media interested in the situation to report the situation, and then from that time up till now, we had a classified document leaked to press, and the thousands of photographs only last year, mugshot of so many thousands of people leaked. However, there's only verbal criticism, but not real action. For example, sanctioning the Chinese government, control the import and so on. But to me, it's the economic dependency. And I think the Western governments really don't know or don't understand the mindset of the Communist Party.
Well, they've done this before, haven't they? That the behaviour in Tibet is a precursor of what has happened to the Uyghurs, that the Chinese communists always clamp down on anyone who they think of as being in any way not likely to go along with everything that they say. And yet the West has ignored this for decades. It's not new that we've been so supine.
It is not new. I mean, 1989, the student massacre, up until now, Chinese government never acknowledged, never admitted the numbers of deaths during that crackdown. But now we are talking about millions of people unlawfully detained simply because we are Uyghur, we are Muslims.
And being tortured and even sterilized.
Absolutely. And the death, I hear so many people. Only last 2 weeks ago when I was in Turkey, I met 2 people living there. Both of them said that one was sister, after 3 days released from the camp, died. And another lady told me her brother, who was about 40 years old, they learned the death. So they informed that this man had a heart attack. 40-year-old had a heart attack in detention.
So they are allowing people to die because they're in detention, they are killing them, and then they're trying to cover it up. But actually, we've got evidence that shows this to be untrue.
Absolutely. We need to have this really unfettered access and investigate to find out how many deaths occurred for the last 4 or 5 years now.
Yes. Well, thank you so much to Rahima for coming in. It is brave of her to come and explain not only what's going on, but her family circumstances as well.